Welcome everyone officially to our Sunday evening CC Canada interview with Ileana, the Star Traveler. We are very, very excited to be here and to have you on tonight. Before we do, as usual, I'm going to invite you all just to get a little comfortable as we prepare ourselves to do our protection meditation. Now, we're doing some energy work tonight. We're going to be talking about some really, really wonderful, wonderful things. So we want to prepare ourselves for these higher frequencies. And it can be pretty difficult as we move around in our day-to-day lives. And we can really leave ourselves open a little bit and not be in the right headspace or be in the right alignment to connect and to share. So it's important to just take a second, take a few minutes, and readjust, get in tune, and to be able to do this work and the sharing that we're going to be doing tonight. Also, when we do this spiritual work, we do raise our heads a little bit above the waters as a target. So we want to make sure that we put up some proper protection and hold some space as we connect, because as we were talking a little bit before, there are always listeners and people and beings that are interested in us and what we're doing. So we want to make sure that only benevolent are being being shared with this information tonight, and we're not being too infiltrated. So if you will just join me in getting yourselves comfortable and relaxed, put your feet firmly planted on the ground. You're welcome to close your eyes. I find it a little bit better as we can cancel out any of the other distractions. So just one moment, and I'm going to cue up our CC Canada meditation, and we're going to get started. Please close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, holding it for the count of...
Turn up the volume.
Now slowly exhale through your mouth for the count of 3. One more time, in through the nose. Allow all the experiences of the day, both good and not so good, to fall away from you with that breath. You are present here and now. Envision around yourself an orb of brilliant platinum energy, the brightest light you have ever seen. This platinum extends all around you and on all sides, fills all of your bodies, including your spiritual and emotional bodies. Not only is this energy around you, but it is also within you, even down to the Dear One Infinite Creator, Creator of all that is, please send us the highest vibrational forces to keep us safe, focused and positive in our intent in this time and space, and to protect us and all those we share this experience with. May all of our communications be protected and shielded from all negative interference. Through all directions of north, south, east, and west, earth, sky, and heart, we direct the four corners to be sealed in the eternal light of unity and oneness. We invite our Christ consciousness and oneness families to help guide us in all that is in the highest expression of our purpose this evening. I am the one infinite creator. I am sovereign. I am free. We are impenetrable and invincible. Blessings be upon us all. Om. Right. Okay. All right, everyone. Just before we get started, just a few reminders to please turn off your mics. And if you would not like to be seen to the public, please turn off your cameras. These interviews are recorded and are shared on platforms like our MeWe Pro, and this one particularly will be shared on YouTube as well. So please, if you are uncomfortable, I encourage you to turn off your camera. But please turn off your mic as we are chatting this evening. Just a reminder, please put any questions you have for our guest into the chat, or anything else, whether it's links to share, but please communicate through the chat this evening. We have a couple of other coordinators here that are going to be monitoring, so feel free to just run them right through, and we're gonna get to all of them, hopefully, and if not, that's a good thing, and then we can have our guest back and do another one, so that'll be good. So we are going to be going for roughly 2 hours tonight, just like last night. So settle in. We're going to have a great conversation, and it's very, very special because lots of things have been coming out recently. We had a great conversation last night, and we were touching upon some great topics, and I feel we're going to be kind of following up on some of these topics and kind of diving a little deeper into some of these details. So for those of you that attended last night, I hope you are prepared to get serious. So without further ado, tonight we have with us Ileana, the Star Traveler, and she is a certified crystal healer, teacher, Reiki practitioner, somatic practitioner, sound healer, and intuitive. In her current practice, she does energy healing, Reiki, and is a psychic who helps people figure out their life's journeys by looking at their past paths and what they would like to improve in their lives, achieve their goals, create balance, and work on improving blockages. Messages from a Star Traveler provides services for Reiki, psychic healings, energy healing, Akashic record readings, hypnosis, past life readings, soul retrieval, and channeling. So much You do. But tonight, we had a little bit of a correspondence, and we wanted to dive deep a little bit in your SSP experiences, your job as a cybernetics technician on Mars, working with the Planetary Corporations, and again, trying to make sense of all this disclosure that has been drip dropping in our ears and in front of us for such a long time. Welcome, Ileana, to our group. You are most welcome.
Thank you so much, Philip. It's nice to be here.
It is wonderful to have you. So, will you please give us a little bit of a introduction and a rundown for some of our members that maybe don't know what the SSP is? How does someone get involved in the SSP? What is that about? And what happens afterwards?
Sure. So basically, the SSP is an acronym for the Secret Space Program. And my experiences are with the Planetary Corporations group, which has bases on Mars. And my other experiences are with lunar space operations, which are bases on the moon. So those are two groups that are run primarily by the US military arm of the Secret Space Program. And that began in the 1950s. So I'm going to talk about the history a little bit through what is called Project Horizon, where the US military and government actually funded a study. It's a 300-page study and also a military census and evaluation of how to get to the moon using V5 rockets, how to get supplies there in order to build an underground base, and also how to create space stations, circular orbiting space stations around between the moon and Earth, or around Earth orbit. So that's how the US SSP military began, with that Project Horizon. And I do believe that they got that started in the 1950s. They had all the plans, how to build the underground base, how to get the supplies and the resources up there. And also later on came there was also Project Paperclip, where the German scientists were imported to the United States, and Werner von Braun had schematics for building space stations with gravity, anti-grav, orbital, like circular orbital space stations. And he was head of NASA for a while. His designs were featured on Disney Channel, on a lot of shows, and the US military, Planetary Corporations, that's what I was with, they took those schematics and they got him to build those space stations, 4 of them. There's also some of them in Mars orbit now. So that's kind of the history of the US SSP. And in the 1980s, they started building out bases on Mars in domes. The bases are covered by electromagnetic dome shielding. Some of the bases are on the surface, some are underground. I know of about 11 bases on Mars that I served under. So they're covered by these domes, so you can't see it from the satellite, you can't see it from telescopes because they're shielded. So, it all stems from Project Horizon and the early setups of the 1950s, starting with lunar base underground and then branching off in the 1980s with Planetary Corporations US head of that to Mars bases.
Absolutely fantastic. That sums up. There's so much to unpack just there. But we're going to keep moving forward to where you come in. So now, in our original conversation, I found out that you aren't originally from Canada. You are currently in BC, but you are from, I believe was it Poland?
No,
No,
not Poland. I am from Ukraine, Russia. Ukraine and Russia.
Excellent, excellent. So you started there, but you are now here. Take us through a little bit of that journey and a little bit of how you got involved with the SSP.
Okay, so did you want my background, where I'm from and how I got here first?
Yeah, sure. Start there.
Yeah, so I was born in Ukraine in 1985, so that's former Ukraine is former Russia. Um, and then when I was 6, I moved to Israel during the Gulf War in 1991. So I lived in Israel for 3 years, and then I moved to Canada in 1993. So I've been around, and I believe where you're born and where you live kind of does influence you because um, Russia, Israel, Canada, they all have parts of the SSP. They're involved in the SSP. So they have their own arms of involvement in what they do. It's actually interesting what recently came out of Israel, and we'll touch on that a little bit. So how I remembered that I had been an SSP asset, that's a term that I use, SSP asset, which is an operative in any of the SSP groups, because there's many different groups. Planetary Corp is the one I was mainly involved on Mars. And I started remembering that at the age of 29 because I had a lot of health problems, autoimmune disorders, Hashimoto's encephalopathy, hemiplegic migraines, which are rare medical conditions. So, and I was having a lot of physical problems with that. And I started learning shamanism, Native American shamanism, and doing hypnosis regression and past life readings as part of the courses. And that's when I discovered the SSP stuff. I'd known that I had ET contacts and that I'm a human ET hybrid that I already had memories of on my own without the shamanism training. But I also had bits of remembering Mars bases, remembering moon bases, working with humanoid looking ETs on those bases. I wanted to know more. And that's why I learned hypnosis through shamanism. And what came out of that is that I had done 60 and back, 60 years in the secret space program, Planetary Corp, quantum leap time travel. That's how they're able to take you from your Earth reality and put you on Mars and back through quantum leap time travel. I know that sounds weird. So you have your current reality, you're living on Earth, and they can take you out of that reality and put you on Mars through their time travel jumpway gateways. They have platforms on the basis for that. So they could teleport you off planet from Earth and put you on Mars, and you do your SSP stuff, and then they can return you home, or they could keep you in the programs for 60 years. So I was kept in the programs for 60 years. I did various jobs. The most memorable for me is working as a cybernetics technician in the cybernetics labs, creating biological human cyborgs. So that's basically, you have the human, right? But they're augmented with nanotechnology and Neuralink implants. So their psychic abilities are enhanced, their strength could be enhanced, their vision, their intelligence, depending on what kind of work you do for on the military base on Planetary Corp. I was mainly on base 5 on Mars, working in the cybernetics labs, working with advanced regenerative technologies like the holographic medical pods, which can regenerate any organs, missing limbs, cure diseases. Those are not available here on Earth. That's exclusively on Mars. That's Mars Planetary Corp tech that they developed. So it's there on their basis, but the technology exists. So I was monitoring how this technology works, how it cures the soldiers, the cybernetic biological human cyborgs, how it augments their implants, how it heals them. I wasn't allowed to use the technology on myself to heal myself, but I was mainly healing others with that tech. And I was also studying how the Neuralink implants work in SSP Asset's brains, how it allows them to telepathically communicate with each other, how it enhances their intelligence, how it allows them to communicate with technology, like the comms on the bases, the databases themselves, because they have huge databases of ET information, ships, what they do medically, and all that stuff, and also to connect telepathically to the navigation systems of the various experimental ships that Planetary Corp builds for space travel and space exploration outside our solar system and galaxy. So that's primarily the work I was doing in the cybernetics labs. I was also doing communications on the various space station platforms that are around Mars and between Earth. I was just checking to make sure everything was running smoothly on the space stations, that everybody was doing their jobs, monitoring soldiers, what missions they're on, where if they need to be redeployed somewhere else, to creating those orders and making sure all that was secure and classified, and the communication systems and the databases that they have on Mars in these bases. So that's primarily the most important thing I think that I was doing. And also I was being experimented on with the biological drug serums, because I had still the autoimmune conditions on Mars, and that's a harsher environment than Earth. So I was germinally injected with various plasma therapies, so I would be healthy to do the 60 and back. So that's how they treated my medical issues, with plasma therapy. And that's created through basically replicator. They can replicate human plasma and different antibodies to heal the body. So it's kind of it's classified as regenerative medicine.
Right.
Yeah, so those are kind of my main experiences that I got out of the hypnosis, self-hypnosis, learning that, and working on that with my shaman teacher, Leonard Howe, who has since passed away. But he left quite the legacy for what he taught me and what I was able to remember through the hypnosis. So that's kind of the background of what I did in the SSP. And I guess the reason why I ended up in the SSP is because I'm telepathic and I have psychic abilities. So they put me into the cybernetics labs. He gave me the Neuralink implants so I could interface with the implants, with the databases in the cybernetics labs, and work with that technology because I have the psychic ability, psionics, to do that. It's primarily why I was taken into the SSP, the Planetary Corp, specifically on Mars. And I also have a understanding of medical science and genetics and stuff. Just naturally, intuitively, I can process information quickly, medical, anything that you give me, I process the info quickly and I understand it quickly. It's just a natural ability. So that's the other reason why I ended up working specifically in the cybernetics labs, because that's kind of what I'm predisposed to be able to process any type of weird information.
Excellent. Well, there's so much to unpack there. We have a couple questions coming in. I want to move back just a little bit, and maybe we can iron out some of those details. You said, you're on Earth, and they take you out of Earth's reality and they put you on Mars. When you say that, can you describe exactly what you mean? Do you mean like a different reality? Do you mean like a different timeline? Do you just mean like what's happening on Earth now you're on Mars? Like how does that work?
What's happening on Earth, it's the same timeline as on Mars, but with quantum leap time travel, they have the ability to literally fold time and space to take you from one planet and put you on another planet. Like Mars and Earth are close together, so it's the same timeline, same reality. Is just with quantum mechanics, you can do time travel, you can do anything, and you could fold and distort reality and time. You could speed up time, you could slow time. So for me, it was like a speed up of time.
Okay.
How can a person do 60 years? I'm only 35, but I did 60 years of working for Planetary Corp. It's because they have time travel technology. They have the Stargateway portals, which allows you to fold time and space. So you could be in your own house, you could be sleeping or whatever, and they could just beam you out from your own house, your own apartment, and they could beam you on Mars. And nobody would notice that you're missing time or that you're gone, because they have a way of distorting reality and folding time where it won't be noticed.
Right.
Nobody will know you're not missed.
So
So
there's so like you're saying, what we've been encountering are reports of people, doing that, going on a 20-year or something like that, doing their mission, coming back, and then whether there's some like age regression or what have you, but basically, like you said, be put back right in the same spot in time. So it's like you weren't ever missing at all, but you
yeah,
do have these suppressed memories, and this is where we are getting a lot of this mental health issues kind of surfacing as people move out and move throughout the rest of their lives.
yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I never had any mental health breakdowns, or I just understood what was happening to me. And the way I did it was through the hypnosis. I'm like, how is this rationally possible? If I look at this memory, what caused this? What did this? So I'm a researcher as well. So I tend to be logical and rational. So I tend to think there's an explanation for everything, even if it sounds bizarre and far out there, it's not. Because again, there are these advanced technologies and breakaway civilizations on Mars, other planets, the moon. So time travel, quantum leap mechanics, time travel has been done. That's how these SSP assets, whether male, female, that's how they get beamed out, put on Mars, and nobody knows you're missing. You don't have to do age regression to bring back somebody to when they were taken 18 or something. You could just do it through quantum leap time travel, and it seems mere days have only passed, but it's been years actually, because they can bend fold time space and time reality.
Wow.
And yeah,
And during that, you said that, so a 60-year stint. Now, is that like kind of coming? Do you get like breaks and all, but or do you do that full 60 years? Do you age that during that time and then get?
I didn't age during that time. I
Wow,
looked like I was 35 because I was given the drug serums,
that's
biological drug
fantastic.
serums to keep me young.
Yeah,
So I didn't age. I looked like me. They even gave me those biological drug serums to make me look like other ETs. They can change your molecular structure to make you look like somebody else or something else. And sometimes I had to interface with ETs for negotiations. They didn't want pale, white, pasty humans in the negotiations. They wanted something that looked like them, so they felt more comfortable. Because not all ETs want to deal with humans, actually. So
and that kind of brings it back around to what you were describing earlier, where we are maybe not very comfortable with the four-legged or the horns and that kind of thing. So again, there's a there sounds like there's a compromise when we're having discussions, that we are all on the same kind of comfortable space, so we can have these talks. So that's fantastic. A couple questions coming from the chat,
sure.
kind of in the area that we're in. Luis is kind of curious if you have any recollection of maybe what age you were kind of maybe targeted and started with some of the training.
I would say about 17, 18. That's when that started, um, for me. But again, for me, I had the Neuralink implants in my brain, four of them, so you could get uploads and downloads of any information and get trained to do anything. It doesn't require months of training. So I would say about 17, 18. That's how I remember being on the moon and Mars from that time onwards. And so it's like it's very interesting because I remember the ET contact experiences before the SSP stuff. So I've had ET contacts throughout my whole life, so before I was born even. So being out in space is nothing new to me. I've always been in space. So it's either ETs or the SSP stuff. So it's been ongoing since I was 2 years old. I would say the ET stuff.
Okay, excellent. I think that's what we were trying to get at too. Yeah, Louise is nodding her head a little bit. We wanted to get down to the nitty gritty. So a little stemming from that, Kat is interested. Was your military experience with the SSP associated with a family history of military service?
My father was in the Russian army. All men are in Russia, Ukraine. So that's standard. I don't have any military background myself, except that I specialize in collecting certain types of semi-automatic weapons, FNFS series. Maybe somebody saw that in Stargate SG-1. You know, those sci-fi looking semi-automatics. That's what I specialize in collecting, because on Mars I was given basic Viking class military training in how to use laser phaser weapons to protect myself, rifles or sidearms. And it's not bullet projectile, it's laser phaser. Plasma as well. And I started collecting weapons at the age of 23 to 25 that looks similar to those plasma laser phaser rifles. It's like looks almost the same, except it fires here on Earth for bullet projectiles instead of plasma or laser or phaser. So I had basic firearms training on Mars in energetic weapons, and I have a PAL license. I'm fully classified to use weapons as a civilian, trained in and classified in it, and I have different firearms. It's just that training followed me to Earth. Like I retained the training on how to use weapons. So it's just something that the training never left me. And I don't go out to the shooting range anymore. I don't find that useful. I keep up with my training for safety protocols and firearms, but I don't go to the shooting range anymore. I'm more interested in healing now, but I still have the weapons.
Very fair. Speaking of healing, diverging for 1 second, Robert is very curious why we are not allowed access to the medical healing that you were describing, like those med beds.
Well, that would literally destabilize the pharmaceutical industry, and healing is money on Earth for all the drugs and vaccines and all of that stuff. So if you're healed, you won't need doctors anymore. You won't need the medical system. So they don't want any of that destabilized. That's why we don't have access to the holographic medical pods, because they don't want to heal cancer. They don't want to cure cancer. They don't want to cure rare medical diseases. That's half of our economy is based on pharmaceuticals. So why would they want to change that? The world would change within a nanosecond, and we have those holographic medical pods. It could cure anything. It could regrow limbs. You don't need to do 3D printing of organs anymore, or you know, for people who lost their limbs, you don't need to print prosthetics anymore. You don't need to do organ transplant anymore. The whole medical system would literally not be there anymore. It would be regenerative medicine technology that could fix anything in you. They don't want access. They don't want us having public access to it, because again, it's all about money. If you heal everybody, then they live longer. They won't die. They'll have better health. They'll have better lifespans. So like, they won't die. There'll be too many people on the planet. So it's kind of, the infrastructure is not there to handle that. The infrastructure is, okay, well, you know, they hit their mid-80s, 70s. Okay, they have disease. It's time to die. Goodbye. Somebody else is born and takes the place of those people. They don't want people to be super healthy and to be able to take care of themselves. That's not what they want. So that's why we don't have that tech.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's pretty standard answer. And I think one that we could all agree with, of why we don't have not only that, but other technologies and other things that would, you know, just benefit us and accelerate us to where we need to be. We are just like wearing a whole bunch of chains and just moving very, very, very slowly, but forward nonetheless. So we have questions pouring in actually right now. So I just want to nail out a couple of them before we get too backlogged. Kat is again curious if in your missions, did they ever insert you in another physical form to conduct deeper space missions, and your body would be left here on Earth?
No, I was always in my physical body. I didn't have military based missions. I was mostly on the bases. I also was with Nachtwaffen on different ships, trying out different ships, piloting ships to make sure deep space travel was, that the experimental ships were able to do that. So I was always in my own body. I don't remember being in clones. I don't remember being in the cyborg bodies. I was always in my body because I was never put on harmful missions. So, for myself, I was able to take care of myself. And if something did happen to my body, you can put the person into the holographic medical pod or the regeneration tank, and it can bring you back from the brink of death, even. So I was never worried about my physical body being killed or destroyed because they could virtually fix you up and patch you up and back you go into service again.
Absolutely right. Okay, just to get I think there's an older question here, just to go back a little bit, and actually it's going to maybe connect with a follow-up question that I have. Roland got in first way back when you were talking about the 1950s, and he's curious what your thoughts or what your feedback is on William Tompkins' involvement during that time.
Yeah, I believe that William Tompkins helped to create a lot of the ship technology because William Tompkins talked about working for Douglas MacDonald and other aeronautical companies and developing ships that went to the moon and that are anti-gravity craft, that they were created here in the underground bases on Earth and then launched and went to the moon, that there was a fleet of them for Solar Warden. So I do believe William Tompkins, as an engineer, played a role in creating anti-gravity craft. It's part of the history. He has detailed information about what goes on the moon, and that the moon itself is a craft that's stationed here, and that there's reptilians and other beings, Nordics, on the moon, and they have their own bases and they work with the SSPs. It was just true, they do. So yeah, I believe what William Tompkins disclosed was true because it along the historical timeline, it jives with what other SSP insiders and scientists have disclosed.
Excellent.
That's the early era of the US SSP military getting out into taking basically we'll estate on the moon and Mars.
Absolutely. Touching on that for 1 second, when we're talking about this faction, are we referring to certain families in Cabal, not offshoot or split away civilizations?
This has nothing to do with the Cabal or certain families. It has to do with corporations, Earth corporations, and government black ops programs. That's what forms the major bulk of the US SSP. Planetary Corporations has a lot of affiliates that work with them from Earth. There's so many different companies. And I have a huge list I listed off the aeronautical companies: Boeing, Douglas, McDonald, Lockheed Martin, and so many other corporations. They've contributed to resources to reverse engineering the anti-grav craft that have crashed here on Earth, ET Tech, reverse engineering that and building out their own versions of those crafts and providing the assistance to Planetary Corp in creating better ships. So there's also medical companies like Pfizer, um, and other companies that have provided the medical stuff for these bases on Mars. And so Earth resources are used in conjunction with off-world bases that the US military and government run. It's all corporations. So it's not really, you don't need the cabal to, or the families like Rothschilds, you don't need those to fund those things. It's been funded already. It's a infrastructure that they didn't want any cabal influence in. The US SSPs and other nation SSPs, they're sovereign. They function on their own. They're not influenced by cabal or the families. They have their own sovereignty. They have their own breakaway civilizations. The point is that they don't need anybody else's money or interference in their secret space program operations. That's why they're secret, because they're their own operations. They don't like interference.
Thank you for clarifying that. So moving to that is you spoke a little earlier about Canadian SSP, and it was kind of raised last night around, when the agreements were being made with Eisenhower and that kind of thing. What was Canada's involvement in that agreement, and were those agreements, affected in other countries and that kind of thing, allowing the abductions to take place? And how did the Canadian SSP then develop, and what is their current place and role right now?
Well, the Canadian SSP is basically providing the personnel for the bases on Mars and the moon, just providing people who can do jobs in the SSP. You don't have to be military, you could be civilian or military. Just providing just giving the agreement, we allow our country for you to take people from our country and beam them out. So Canada has connections with NORAD, as we know. Canada has connections with the US and NORAD, which is part of space defense and ground defense, planetary ground defense. NORAD does both. So, and there's NASA also. These are part of these programs, space programs, Earth-bound programs, but they know about certain SSP programs as well. So there's a connection to everything. It's just certain countries have agreed for their citizens to be taken. Like, you can take a certain percentage of our citizens that have psychic ability or they have high IQ for whatever you need them to work in the programs for. You can take them, but you have to return them after they've done a 60 and back, 20 and back. They have to live out their regular lives. You cannot take them forever. You have to give them back at a certain point and make it look like they have a normal life. So that's the agreements. It's a very basic agreement. You can take people from my country and you can use them for the SSP. Just don't kill them, just return them. Don't make it too traumatic for them. Just return them in one piece, hopefully, at the end of it. That's part of the agreement. We must be returned back to wherever we're currently living and live out our life after the service, the SSP service, whatever it happened to be.
Excellent. Okay, so this is a great kind of segue into Raymond's kind of question. And I think we can really dive deep in here. So he is curious of what the purpose of these abductions are. I think you're already kind of touching on this a little bit. What is the purpose of these abductions that made you work for 60 years? And what are they trying to accomplish by having these productions being done on Mars and the moon?
The purpose is to have workers specialize in whatever job they need for you to be in, because it's all about job specialty. What I'm good at is information gathering, information dissemination, medical stuff, like processing information quickly. So, and when I was in the cybernetics labs, it's all about doing experiments, processing genetics, processing projects, processing experiments, and the results of that. What are the results? Having that put into the databases, communicating with the ETs, language interpretation, The Neuralink implant allows for everything to be processed so quickly and for you to be able to file things, experiments, results, whatever you need. So I was doing that research, information gathering, medical experiments. I was very much interested in that and testing out new technologies, what they were creating, like ships, different regenerative medicine technologies. I would test that out. I would try it out on myself, others, and write down the results of those experiments and trials for further improvement. And the purpose of having an SSP is to build out infrastructure, constantly improve what you've already have, build it out more, have it function better. That's the infrastructure in space. We have boots on the ground on the moon and Mars, despite people saying that we're not allowed to go back on the moon. That's not true. We've been on the moon for a very long time, since the 1950s and 1980s on Mars. We have bases, we have presence. The other ETs don't kick us off. There's agreements with the US government, with Canada, with NORAD, that we can be on the moon and Mars. As long as we don't encroach on other ETs' bases in space and their territories, we can be on the moon and Mars. We have our own bases. We don't need to take their territories. We have our own. So it's tacit agreements. You take care of your own stuff on your own basis, don't bother us and we won't bother you. Those are the basic agreements between ETs and the US military and the different SSP programs that they participate in.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Moving forward with an interesting question, probably one you can answer pretty quickly, but Robert is curious, were you compensated for your years of service or as an employee of the SSP?
Not financially or health-wise. I was compensated in accessing my medical memories of using plasma therapy treatment to basically keep my own Hashimoto's encephalopathy symptoms under control, because I have a compromised autoimmune system that attacks my own body. It causes paralysis, it causes headaches, it causes vision blurriness, speech, memory issues. So I was treated on that on Mars with their synthesized plasma therapy, because they could replicate anything. They don't need blood products like we do on Earth to do plasma therapy, because we extract plasma from blood, from people's blood. That's how you treat it for autoimmune problems. So I was able to make correlation from my own hypnosis memories of how I was medically treated on Mars with that regenerative biological drug serums, the equivalent of that here on Earth, which is subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy treatment. So my compensation is my medical knowledge from working in the SSP for Planetary Corp in the cybernetics labs. That's my compensation, knowing what biological drug serums are, how to implement that on myself to treat my autoimmune disorder.
I suppose compensation comes in different forms and in different ways. So that's excellent. A follow-up question from Robert, though, was, are your implants observable with diagnostic imaging?
No, they're not. They're nanotechnology. So they're not observable by anything. MRIs, EEGs, X-rays, they cannot pick up that. That's why it's nanotech. It's unobservable by a microscope or an MRI machine. So no, that's why it's called Neuralink implants. They're so tiny, they're not observable by anything that we have on Earth tech.
Interesting. Okay. Catherine has a question that I think is near and dear to her heart. As a gunny, you must have had a lot of thoughts on Trudeau's gun ban and the amnesty that is over soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think these are unlawful confiscations, and I think it's unlawful to ban guns and rifles in Canada. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. We should have our rights and freedoms. As long as we're law-abiding citizens that have official PAL licenses, we should be able to own our firearms, and as long as we have strict measures of how we store our firearms, which should be in safes and in locked rooms, and we should have a security system and also cameras around the house of our perimeter. If we're firearms owners, we have to take certain responsibility for that to safely store our firearms. As long as you follow all the laws and the rules, they're pretty strict. As long as you follow that, you should not have your weapons confiscated. So that's my official stance on that.
Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to welcome in a question from our Alberta coordinators, Deborah and Koji. I think they want some meat and potatoes here. Can you describe some of the beings you have seen and have experienced with?
Well, some of the beings on the Mars basis, I worked with Nordics, so slightly paler than us. They had blonde, blue hair, pale skin, tall, up to 5'9" and 6 foot and something. I was working with females mostly with the Nordics on the basis. And I did have an interesting association with an ET with an ET hybrid named Zagor, who's a reptilian insectoid hybrid. So imagine a 17-foot tall reptilian looking insectoid with green skin and a AI smart suit, being able to telepathically communicate with you. His name was Zagor, so he would help me with the genetic experiments in the cybernetics labs to create human ET hybrids. So those were my memories of kind of ET hybrids on the Mars basis. And I remember being on L-race ships, L-E-L, and they're up to 12 dimensional, so they can change their physical form, they could change their appearance, they could be energetic, they could be fully, biological as what we are, and just time traveling, looking at different histories of different beings, studying reality, like what is this universe? What are other universes? Why are we here? What are we doing? How do we quantify our existence? So that's something I remember studying with the L race, and just learning energy healing, learning what energy is, how to use energy, how to help myself and others with that. So that's the fondest memories of ET experiences that I have. And I was abducted by the reptilians from 2 to 10. That's how my autoimmune system was ruined, because they injected me with nanite technology, with little nanites that ruined my autoimmune system in my blood. That wasn't pleasant. One of the reptilian groups was named Sharab Invictus, the other Black Drowser reptilians. So just imagine seeing black, huge reptilians experimenting on you, or pale looking reptilians that have yellow green skin and fangs, kind of up to 6 foot tall or taller. So that wasn't fun. So I don't have a huge trust of reptilians per se. I mean, some of them are negative, some of them are positive, and some of them are in between. But I always think of reptilians with a pause, because I don't have fond memories of them.
That's very fair. I think a lot of people that have experiences with reptilians will share some of those feelings. But like you said, like any race, there are goods and bads and in-betweens and all the colors of the rainbow. And I think a lot of those kind of concepts are lost because we do hear a lot of the negative stories, because, that's what a lot of them are associated with. So thank you very much for sharing that. A follow-up question, though, from Deb and Koji, we have, as a hybrid, do you have any physical anomalies?
What do you mean by physical anomalies? Like what's the question specifically?
I think Deb's just she's just retyping her.
Be a bit more specific. What do you mean by anomalies? Like medical issues, psychic abilities, or something else?
She's vigorously typing away.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. She is now done.
No, my teeth are normal. Shape of roof of the mouth is the same. I look human. The differences in my ET stuff is that I'm psychically augmented. I could see the bits of the future. I could feel people's thoughts, feelings. I'm psychically active. That's the difference. Very much psychically active and open and 100% psychically activated. That's what my ET, uh, human ET hybrid lineage is. Psychic abilities, psychic gifts. That's primarily, I guess, if you look at me, that's the anomaly, psychic ability. Physically, I'm pretty much like you, and that's what makes it easier to fit in human society and to be passable as human. And there's a lot of us out there, so there's so many ETs walking among us. They look human, and that's the best part. Two legs, two arms, two eyes, and skin tone almost the same. There's so many humanoid ET hybrids that they could just pass on different planets and blend in, and you would never know the difference between them and us because they could pass, they could fit in.
Absolutely. I think we've seen those movies, we've seen those stories, and there's a reason why they put those out to share some of that knowledge as well. A quick follow-up question, though, from Deb, since we're on the topic of ETs still. Did you feel that the ETs were compassionate?
Some can be compassionate, some can be downright mean. It depends what situation you end up in.
That's very fair. That's very fair. Okay. Moving on. Again, apologies. There are so many questions coming in, so I just want to make sure that we get to as many as possible here. Louise is curious. Those corporations, are they actually connected to the Galactic Federation?
No, galactic. It depends what you mean by a galactic federation. There's many different ET species that have galactic federations and confederations. Those companies are associated with the Planetary Corp, which is comprised of U.S. military, Black Ops, and other organizations like the three-letter agencies as well that all contribute to the SSP programs. Confederations, ET confederations or federations, if they want to associate with the SSP, they make agreements to participate with us or not. So they can't just barge in and just be a contributor. It has to be through agreements.
Excellent. So I think the short answer is no.
No.
I think that's what we're getting at. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. So this one's a little interesting. I think she feels that you've already answered the question, but I want to, this is an interesting piece to it as well. It's about abductions from Kat. So every month people worldwide go missing, mainly in national parks. And there's lots of parks in Canada. Many of those disappear, never found, or they are found dead in unusual places, sometimes with injuries associated with falls from high places. Are these abductions associated with the SSP?
Some of it could be. Yeah, the SSP, there's different groups of the SSP factions. There's more than one. So yeah, it could be, but usually you're not classified as missing. They don't want this to be noticed. So they don't want you classified as missing if you go into the SSP. In some situations it could be, but it's mostly you're taken from your home and then you're put back as if nothing ever happened. So there's no suspicion of anything happening. No evidence, no trace you were ever missing or gone or taken. The SSP, that's their ammo. Not to be noticed that you were ever taken, because that's sloppy. If they just drop you off in the middle, you went hiking, you were taken, abducted, whatever, and then you were just dropped off without any memory in the middle of the park, or you end up dead off a cliff. That's sloppy. Something went wrong if you were taken by the SSP, and that's how it ended up looking. That's very sloppy. So this could be ET abductions. It could be Black Ops abductions as well in the underground bases on Earth, medical experimentation, or it could be human predators that are psychos and just know how to cover their tracks pretty well. Like, let's take the example of Suzanne Murphy in Boulder, Colorado. The woman went on a bicycle ride early in the morning and disappeared, and she hasn't been found since 6 months now. What happened to her? The FBI, the CIA, the Boulder, Colorado police were involved in massive searches. Her own family, her own brother was involved in his own private searches for her, and the citizens of Colorado. They couldn't find her body. So the woman just disappeared. They couldn't find any trace evidence of her physical body. And so what happened to her? The psychics can't figure it out. The police can't figure it out. It's still a mystery. The woman is gone. I think a psychopath took her and covered it up pretty well, because there are serial killers, murderers, and psychopaths who could cover up their tracks pretty well. It could be ex-military, CIA. They could just be psychopaths who've had horrible upbringing, and they're just continuing on. So it's more than just SSP and ET abductions. There's human predators out there.
Absolutely. And again, so much to unpack even with that. Thank you for that. Hopefully that answers your question, Kat. We have an interesting question from Roland. So Roland is curious if when space travel comes and is more accessible, will you be able to go to the moon and Mars and meet yourself?
What do you mean go to the moon and Mars and meet yourself? It's like,
do you want to chime in here, Roland?
Yes, as you worked on Moon and Mars bases, so can you go with a spaceship now? Because there has to be some time somewhere in some places. So would you meet yourself in the future?
no, you cannot meet yourself in the future. There are certain rules and governances about time travel. You're not allowed to just go into the future and meet yourself. That's against time travel rules. What they could do with time travel is they could transport you to different planets and warp time and space to make it look like you were never gone and you don't have missed time. That's what time travel allows now to do. You can't just grab a spaceship and go off and do something. That's not authorizable. It's all very much based on rules and regulations, what spaceships you are put on and what jobs you do out in space. So whatever the program is, if they want you to work in space on ships, that's where they'll assign you. If you don't, you'll be dirt side on different planets and bases, space stations. It's very dependent on what job you're suited for and what you can do. So right now we don't have access to just taking a spaceship on Earth and going off to do something or somewhere out in the galaxy. That's not accessible, not going to be accessible to us anytime soon.
Very fair. Okay, thank you for that. All right, Raymond has an interesting question. Going back to Mars and doing some work there. I think this is what he's getting at. He would like to know who would benefit from the research projects once they were completed, and where does that technology information go once in the shared alien database?
It's on the Planetary Corp databases. It's not in shared alien databases. It's on all in the cybernetics labs and Mars databases. So basically, when you're at the end of the experiment, when you improve a biological drug serum, when you improve Neuralink implants, when you improve building a better smart suit, all that information is collated into the databases. And once they want to make upgrades, they look at the previous experiment to make improvements. So they use that information the same way we do on Earth with medical experiments or anything else. That data is just used as quantification to make something better or improve on something that might have been a failure. So they're very meticulous about those records. Nothing is truly a failure because you could always learn from something that was a failure and make something much better. So the data, whether it was a successful experiment or not, it's all collated and it's all in the records. Nothing is ever misplaced or missed or omitted. It's meticulously collected to improve on something else in the future if they want something better than what they created in the first place. So that's basically, they just improve on what didn't work well and make it better, or they keep the data, and they don't share all data with aliens and ETs. What's on the base stays on the base unless they need to collaborate with the ETs to do something together, co-joint projects. Then they might share the info on their experiments and outcomes.
Excellent, excellent. Speaking of sharing and technologies, to follow-up question to that from Raymond, we've already touched on a lot of this a little bit. Maybe we can kind of just round it all up. Will Earth ever be able to have access to any of these technologies sometime in the future? Do you see a timeline where we do have these technologies rolling out for our benefit?
Not anytime soon, maybe 50 to 100 years down the road. I don't see this happening anytime soon because the status quo is keep making money, keep the economies running no matter what. So it's like oil, greed, money. This is how it's set up by cabal, by whatever, the families. It's set up for a specific formula, and they like how that functions. So they don't want any disruption to the formula. Why would they want us to have any of that technology?
Absolutely.
Again, it would change literally the type of civilization we are in the Kardashev scale in evolution. Type 1, type 2, 3, 4, 5, and onwards. The Kardashev scale is evolution. How far a civilization advances. How far can they get rid of war? Can they get rid of famine? Can they get rid of disease, pollution? Literally changes the type of civilization you are and what you're able to do. They don't want us going to type 1 even currently. So I think of us as primitive. We're above the primitives, but we're still primitive because we have famine, we have wars, we have violence, we have diseases, pollution, all of that. Until we get beyond that, we're not even a type 1 civilization.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Kat has a great question here. It has been said that there is negative alien infiltration in every aspect of human life. As a Reiki healer and a shamanic practitioner, do you feel that the Jupiter-Saturn grand conjunction and the mass influence of all the star seeds and wanderers on Earth will cleanse these healing and energy work modalities?
I don't believe any of that can cleanse the infiltration of aliens here on Earth. Energy is energy. Those conjunctions are there to just be there. They're just something that happens phenomenally, like a phenomenon. You could utilize those energies for healing yourself and for improving your own life if you want to manifest something. I don't believe if even all the star seeds join up that they could eradicate all alien infiltration. So aliens will do what aliens want to do. We'll do what we want to do. If you want to heal, if you want to utilize the energies of the Saturn, Jupiter, December 21 conjunction, Lionsgate, if you want to utilize this to manifest something for yourself or to heal yourself, by all means, use those healing energies to do something for yourself or others, to change something, to do something positive. But I don't think those conjunctions, the energies of those things alone, can remove alien infiltration.
Interesting. It definitely has to be a group effort. I think we all have to pitch in and make that happen as well. Okay, switching gears for a quick second. Duncan would like to know what is to come in the next 6 months in reference to being with the vaccine and these types of agendas that are being rolled out here in Canada.
Well, it's quite spelled out quite easily what's to come on the news. Let's unpack it. They've already told us what's to come. So basically by April, they're going to roll out full immunization of Pfizer vaccines and Moderna and anything else that they come out with that's approved. If you want to get vaccinated, it's not mandatory. You can get it if you want it. If you don't want it, you'll be restricted from going to restaurants, theaters, outdoor events, parties, weddings. If you don't have your vaccination, you can't go to those places. You can't congregate in meetings and stuff in large groups of people. So, some things will be restricted. So that's basically what they're telling us would be in 6 months or even sooner than that. It's your choice. You want to get vaccinated, go ahead. If you don't, you don't have to, but then you're not going to have as much rights and freedoms as you want. They still want to give us freedom of choice to make it look like we have free will and choice.
No, absolutely. And, like you said, this stuff has been coming out for a while. Things have been leaked for a while. And, they've really spelled it out for us. And it's being released in, it's happening in drips and drops, not all at the same time. It is spread out over the months and upcoming year. So, as like you said, just please be aware that these things are in place, but we are working together, and hopefully we can put ourselves back on a timeline that is without all of these restrictions, because I want to be able to have a CC conference here in Canada without having to have everyone be vaccinated to attend. I think that's absolutely redonkulous. So hopefully that can come, but until then, we're going to meet like this and get the word out as we are.
Yeah, and travel restrictions. If you want to travel to a different country, different province, you have to get vaxxed. And you have to have your immunity passport stamp that you got it. That's basically what they want to roll out. And that's on the news. That's in news articles. It's everywhere. So the plan is, we know what the plan is, whether that's 2 months down the road, 6 months down the road. Plan is the pandemic is here, wear your mask, get vaxxed or don't get vaxxed, but you can't go places anymore. It's just restrictions. It's just basic COVID pandemic restrictions. It's up to you what you want to do. They're not going to force you to get vaccinated. And if for some reason there are some jobs like nurses that it's mandatory to get vaxxed, they could get exemptions if they have medical issues or allergies or whatever. So it's really up to you where you work, what jobs you have, what you want out of your life. If you want socialization and you want freedom, certain people might get vaccinated. I wouldn't. I don't want that in my DNA. I don't want that in my system at all. I don't trust those vaccinations. Not yet. Never trust vaccinations to begin with, so I'm not getting it. I'm not doing it. It's my right, freedom to not. But you all have a choice to make what you want and how much you want.
Absolutely, and I think you just answered Louise's question. If I can get a nod there, Louise, yes, she's on board. Awesome. Okay, couple things here. Some good stuff actually just came in. So we are going to be going into the recent disclosure by the Israeli officer, and in 1 second. However, I don't think we'll be doing you any justice if we don't just pause for a moment and speak on some of the wonderful work that you do. So Kat's pointing out, your website indicates that you work with crystals. Can you talk just a little bit more about this? Can you, what are some recommended crystals for some star seeds and some empaths? And have you worked with crystal skulls? Do you prefer to work with raw or polished?
I work with all kinds of crystals, raw, polished. I use different crystals like amethyst, rose quartz, clear quartz. I have wands, amazonite, citrine. I have all kinds of different wands that I work with for healing the body physically, because those wands you could use on yourself to heal if you have a headache. You could use a rose quartz wand on your forehead, anywhere on your head, to remove a headache. If you have stomach ache, you can use carnelian to heal that. You could just get a polished palm stone and put it on your stomach to heal that. I use mostly polished wands and palm stones. If I have like a headache, for the rose quartz for the headache, carnelian for the stomach. I also use a lot of tumbled stones and rough stones to do crystal grids for manifestation. And if I want to improve work capacity, if I want to have a better job, better health, whatever I want to manifest in goals and successes, I have different crystals and I do different crystal grids. Like I use symbols and stuff for manifestation. Tree of Life, for example. There's other bases that I use to put the crystals on, and I program the crystals for what I want to manifest with energy. Because crystals are energy. Crystals are amplifying healing, amplifying your psychic ability. They have so many different properties for so many different things. So I always look at crystal properties when I go to buy crystals, when I go to heal with crystals, depending on what you need done. There's so many different crystals that you could use to accomplish that.
Excellent. One of the questions in there was, have you ever worked with crystal skulls?
Yeah, I have several crystal skulls. I telepathically communicate with crystal skulls to look at human Earth history, to look at other history in the universe. Crystal skulls are really good for energy upgrades, downloads, information. So I commune with crystal skulls a lot to get information.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Now we are about at the hour and 20-minute mark. Before we wrap up, I know we wanted to kind of get into some of this disclosure that's been happening. So for those that aren't here, would you kind of just give us a little bit of a rundown for what was disclosed and how that collaborates with your experience there?
Yeah, so recently what has happened is an Israeli general by the name of Haim Eshed disclosed that the Israeli government, that US government, have had agreements with some sort of ET Galactic Federation, and that they've had a Mars underground base together in collaboration, running a base together with ETs and US military and government and Israeli forces. So, and that they've been doing genetic experiments on humans as part of those agreements. So that's what basically was disclosed. And Haim Eshed, he's a acknowledged professor. He was running the Israeli space agency. He was the head of the satellite defense system and surveillance and reconnaissance for the Israeli satellite systems, launching them, heading that program. So he was involved in many things having to do with space, having to do with, just the knowledge base of having information about ETs, like Israeli satellites do spy and reconnaissance, both of what's happening in space and on Earth. They could pinpoint the satellite anywhere they want. They work with Mossad, they work with MI6 in Europe. So it's their network intelligence agencies they can get a lot of information. So I'm not surprised that he said that ETs work with Israeli governments and the US military to have bases on Mars, underground base. To me, that's nothing new because I've been talking about Mars bases existing on the moon and on Mars for the longest time, that I was an SSP asset that participating in working on those bases and actually disclosing the physical locations of those bases through Google Earth, using that to map the information on the moon and Mars, because you could use Google Earth to map physical locations of the moon and Mars. And I mapped the basis of where I was. And I had that published on my YouTube channel, Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, in September 2020. And now it's disclosed by Haim Eshed that there's agreements with some kind of ET group between Israel and the US government.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. And as we know, we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, that, this is just part of this little bit of a disclosure plan, and things just kind of keep coming out in little drips and drops. And, we'll see it pop on the news here and pop on the news there. And then we'll have some bigger disclosures like we just had here, with some fantastic information. So fantastic that it will be hard for a lot of people that aren't paying attention and aren't aware to even kind of process that information. So, but we are coming into a time where the revving up of awakeness is happening, and people are going to have questions. And I'm very thankful that you're able to talk with us and give us some feedback and some insight on all of these different topics that do affect us on so many different levels. I have a great question here. Maybe you have some insight on it. What do you think the monoliths are that have been discovered worldwide? Some have disappeared seemingly without human interference.
I honestly don't know. To me, I look at it and I don't know what those are. It's an interesting phenomenon, but I don't know what the purpose is of having a metal monolith just appear and disappear. Maybe it's to just help us, to show us that different phenomenon exist. Paranormal, supernatural, make something appear, make it disappear. Some kind of technology, teleportation, show us we can just make something appear, have it magically be there, not knowing what its purpose is, this metal monolith, and then have it disappear. It could be testing of technology. It could just be something to make us aware, oh, there's weird phenomenon out there that's not accountable for. Who did it? Why? To make us think who, why, when, and what for. To make us think, to make us question things, to make us ask questions. So I don't know what it's for, but it's quite interesting. It makes me ask, well, how can this be teleported in without anybody seeing it and then teleported out and placed somewhere else, exact thing? Like, what's the purpose of it? Probably to test out teleportation. I don't believe it's just some artist in the middle of the night just popping one in and magically having people admire their art.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Pausing for 1 second, we do have a question going back to some crystals. Deb is curious if you've ever worked with moldavite.
No, I've never worked with moldavite. It's very expensive, and you can buy little chunks of it, so it's too expensive and it's hard to find it. So no, honestly, I haven't. I know that it has very healing properties and to augment psychic ability. So it's very good for those things, but I don't have any and I've never worked with it.
Excellent. All right. So we have kind of overviewed what the SSP is. We've overviewed gone through some of, like, most of your experiences there, what you did, what different kind of programs and jobs you were a part of while on your 60-year and back stint with them. We've talked about crystals. We've talked about so many different things. Is there anything that you would like to share with our attendees tonight about moving forward from here, and as we are hearing about these disclosures, and as we are hearing about these news stories coming out, how can we really do us a good service and put us on a good timeline, be calm, be encouraging, be supportive when it seems like everything around us is just shaking?
Don't fall for whatever is being put on the news. If it's designed to scare you, don't fall for the scare tactics. Don't engage in that. Don't engage in the energy of it. Just don't engage into that. Don't let it scare you. If it looks scary, don't listen to it. If it sounds scary, don't engage in it. Just don't let your energy follow the path of what's not good for you. I don't watch the news. I don't really. Sometimes I look at what's going on with vaccination and where that's heading, what the restrictions are, but I don't let it impact me. If I want to go for a walk, I'm going for a walk. So I'm not going to be scared to go out. I don't congregate in places. I don't go to restaurants. I don't want to be spreading something or picking something up. So I respect, like, the rules. Don't congregate in large circles, because we've always had flus. We've always had seasonal stuff, right? So it's common sense. Just don't go to places where you could pick something up if you don't want to get the flu or a cold or something during the winter. It's just cold. You can get sick. That's common reality. Same with these restrictions. It's common sense. I can't wear a mask for a long time, so no more than 30 minutes. I follow the rules. If I want to go buy something, I will wear the mask because I don't want to be kicked out of the store. I don't cause a ruckus over that. Some of close family friends have caught COVID in the States. We were just told about it, and they had very bad symptoms. So honestly, I think masks help us stay safe. Wearing gloves, those things I would do, and I do. I'm not going to get vaccinated. I'm not going to do that because I've had horrible experiences with vaccinations, having convulsions after it. So that I'm not going to do. But I generally am not saying don't follow restrictions, that COVID is fake. I never say that because I know it's true. COVID is real and people have been sick from it. So just do what you feel right for you, what you feel safe doing, and what works for you. And don't do what doesn't work for you. Make your own choices. Make your own decisions. Follow your wisdom. What's right for you and what's not. Just common sense intuition.
Thank you for that. That was great. A follow up for this one. Louise wants to put you on the spot a little bit. You said that you can see the future. Do you see us free from all of these restrictions?
Honestly, I don't see you free from all those restrictions, not anytime soon. I see all kinds of different potential future outcomes and timelines that changes every 5 minutes in what I see. So, 1 minute I might see us having disclosure of ETs, the next minute, no disclosure. Those things change because time changes constantly. So I see the future in percentages, and one percentage might be higher than the other, and it could change at any moment. So honestly, I don't see us free of restrictions anytime soon.
Absolutely, and they're definitely trying to embed these restrictions pretty deeply, that they won't be removed anytime soon. And it's always like this little carrot, isn't it? Like they put it like it's like 2 weeks here, a month here, always giving us that little bit of like, okay, it's going to be over at this time to get us through, and then they extend it again. So it's a perpetual machine right now. Even more reason why we definitely need to stick together, and share some of this stuff, because it is again, it is pretty crazy out there if we are not working together. So again, if you are if you came in late or anything like that, there's so much information in the chat. Please save it. There are links in there. For example, Ileana's website and YouTube. You can check it out if you are interested in more content. I can tell you her website is filled with content from all the different topics that we've talked about tonight, and even going deeper and in getting into some further topics as well. So please check out her website. It's fantastic, very interactive. So, and then also there's some great content there on the YouTube channel as well. Some great interviews that have been done. Before we go tonight, Ileana, is there anything that you would like to leave us with?
Just don't fall into fear. Follow your own common sense. Do what's right for you. What's right for someone like me might not be right for you, and I will never tell you to do something that you don't feel good with. You just do you, what you need to do to live your life to your authentic best self, and follow your intuition, what's right for you and what's not. Like, make your choices, live your life. Don't be afraid to live your life. Things are going to happen in life. Whether it's this pandemic or something else, continue to live. You have your rights and your freedoms. Live the way you want to live. Do what you feel right is right for you or not. It's up to you. Like, free will, free choice. Do what you need to live to the best of your ability, to live your best life. That's what I'll say to anybody. Like, don't fall into victimhood. Don't fall into oh, woe's me, this is happening. Don't use excuses to blame a pandemic or something else that's happening in the world to say you still have the right to make your own choices in how you want to live. Nothing can take that away from you in how you choose to live. I choose to be free. I choose to go for walks, just to get in the car and go to places. I choose to not wear a mask 24/7, only if I have to go to the store. Otherwise, you know, when I'm in the car or when I'm on a walk, I'm not wearing a mask. I want my fresh air. So I believe I only will wear a mask if I have to go somewhere where there's a lot of people. I'll wear it because I feel safer. I mean, I'm sensitive to different smells. I was wearing masks even before all of this. Sometimes I'd put a mask on because I'm sensitive to smells, and it just would keep that out. There's certain masks that actually have air filters in them that purify your air, like charcoal masks. So sometimes I utilize that even before this because I'm sensitive to smells. So for me, like, sometimes wearing a mask, it's not out of the ordinary because I've worn it before, just for my own health things, for allergies. If you don't want to wear it, you don't feel comfortable wearing it, that's your choice. You don't wear it or you wear it, up to you. Again, all of these restrictions, if you think it makes you safe, then you do that. If you don't think it makes you safe, or it's, you know, irrational, unreasonable, then you don't do it. But again, there's consequences. If you congregate in parks, if you congregate in places, the police are watching us. They are watching us to see what we do. They ticket us. So just be wise, and it's all your choices. You make your own choices concerning all those restrictions, because that's one of the questions I noticed was in there. What do I think about them? I think some of it is unreasonable and some of it is to protect us. So again, it's how you look at it is from your own lens and your own choices of what you think of it. I think that I don't want to congregate with large groups of people, because I want to feel safe. It's flu season, regardless of what it is. I don't want to catch anything, so I don't meet with large groups of people, just my own common sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that and for your time tonight. Getting some thank yous in here. Thank you very much for sharing all this information. There's so much information. There is so much to unpack here. It was great to get some more details from our after our conversation with our other guests yesterday. You really shed more light on what's happening on Mars, what has happened on Mars, some of the programs that are continuing to happen. It's all really interesting, fascinating stuff, and it's all things that do affect us in various ways as we move about our lives. And you're talking about some of these restrictions going on right now, and we are choosing, and everyone can choose to participate in the way that they want to participate. And I think that's a good message to send in what we want to bring about. So if we don't want to have these types of restrictions, I think we can do our part in turning the tide and making it more comfortable and safe for everyone, that this is not going to last. We are going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together. So thank you so much for bringing some insight and your experience and your knowledge and your wisdom from your years of experience in the SSP and with the healing work that you do. If anyone is interested, please, 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 you can connect with Ileana through her website, and again, check her out on her YouTube. There's always some great stuff on there as well. From the bottom of my heart, Ileana, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and thank you everyone for joining us and participating.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, make your own choices, live your life to the best of your ability. It's your right, it's your body, it's your soul, it's your life.
Absolutely, indeed. And we are sovereign and we are free. So thank you all very, very much. Just a quick reminder, we aren't done this week. We have plenty of things happening. I think, Louise, you got a Quebec meeting happening on Tuesday. We have a Ontario Zoom happening on Wednesday. And there are rumors that I think we might be doing something on Christmas. And then, of course, we have our very special Deb and Koji Boxing Day happening as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to connect and get together and to share. So please, please, please connect with us as we go through this wonderful, wonderful time, and enjoy tomorrow. Tomorrow's very, very special. Please, like it's been said, go outside, get your feet in the ground, in the earth, and connect. And we can do so together. So thank you all so much. We will see you for CC Quebec on Tuesday evening.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Ileana. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ileana.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
It was a
Elaine.
pleasure.